Stephen just finished reading the lesson about forgiving the world a few minutes ago. Of course, that lesson is called The Light Has Come. Let's think a little bit more about that. Let's suppose that we want to find out if we have forgiven the world. And what we say, well, what does that mean? Well, let's release the world from the expectations that we put on it, or the grievances we have against it already, as well as the expectations that we have for it for the future. The world in the past wasn't quite what we wanted, so we got a grievance against that. We're pretty sure it's not going to change and do any better, so our expectation for the future may be negative instead of positive. And what we're seeing, and so when we see the world today, we just dump one or the other on it. The question is, to what extent do you do that? Here's a way to find out. Let's suppose that I were to ask you, I mentioned a little bit earlier about the relief bill not being passed. I believe that's correct, for the people out of work or the COVID unemployed. They were working, trying to get something passed, and it didn't get passed. Do you want that to be passed? You can just answer silently. You don't need to tell me about it one way or the other. And if you want it to be passed, or if you want it to not be passed, you have a preference about the world. You want the world to be this way and not that way. Yeah, simple enough. Now, if it actually bothers you, so it's just not just a light preference. If it really bothers you, if it doesn't go this way or that way, you need to forgive the world. Because you're placing your expectations on the world. In other words, you're saying, yes, there is a world out there that doesn't pass this bill when I want it passed, or doesn't bring food to my grocery store. We could make it more personal. Suppose we went to the grocery store and the shelves were empty. We would almost all be saying, what's going on here? I want some food from the grocery store. I want to be able to get food there. So it's putting expectations, what you want the world to do for you or for somebody else, and then letting it bother you. If it doesn't bother you, you haven't gone with your expectation. You've just it came and then you shrugged your shoulders and it left. No big deal. The idea here is that truth, the world has nothing to offer. That's the idea. And you are making a judgment. It's not offering enough, or not offering the right kind, or it's not offering at the right time. And I'm suggesting the solution is it has nothing to offer. Yes, Matt.
Why should we forgive the world when we are the ones that made up the world in the first place? Doing that?
I think it amounts to pretty much the same thing. The world is not an entity. There is no being called Mr. World that lives at the corner of Blackberry Road or something. Well, that's just the word. The world, actually, the Course says the world has no meaning in and of itself. And so we make it up by giving it meaning, attaching some meaning to it. Something that is meaningless and that we do not give any meaning to it, well, it's nothing for us. How about that empty block of air over there? Do I worry about it? Well, nothing there. What's to worry? You see, the Course teaches that the world does not have meaning in and of itself, so you don't have to get concerned about what it is or is not doing, in your opinion, anyway. You just need to release. When it says forgive the world, what I think of is release. Remember, if you have a grievance against someone, you want to forgive them. What you want to do is release the energy, that negative energy inside you that makes you not feel good because you're thinking about how they didn't treat you right. You see, well, We need to release that. Now, a lot of people don't know how to do that. If you don't know how to do that, commit yourself immediately to learning. It's the most important thing you can learn. And I'd say so. And you can ask the universe for help in case you think you need help. So it'll bring you stuff that you need to release, I'm sure. Anytime that something bothers me, I know it. I know that it bothers me. It gets under your skin. There's some little bugs under there crawling around now. They're really in your mind, of course, that weren't there before. Peace goes away. That's why the purpose of the course is to the attainment of peace and the keeping of peace. Talking about peace of mind. Peace of mind cannot be dependent upon what you're looking at. That's the world. I guess the image we form of the world is whatever we look at, and then whatever meanings we give to all these different things. And if you decide that it needs to have a meaning, you're trying to make it real. That's my feeling. If you got a different view on that, please feel free to comment. That's what I think of is if I'm trying to make it real, then I want to say this event in the world matters. If I'm not trying to make it real, well, it doesn't really matter. It's just here for my healing. Remember that? See, we want to use the world for our own purposes. Please entertain me. Do something I like. Show me a pretty picture of some sort. I want to see all the people coming together, holding hands and singing, blah blah, whatever.
Kumbaya.
That's what I was aiming at. And you can see I was trying to get there, right? Muttering some nonsense words there. It is not necessary what you really don't want is to have the world get out of your control, and then what you see dominates what you think and feel. See, then it's running you. And of course, it's really your meanings that you have. It's the power that you've given your power away to the world. You know what the Course says about giving your power away, don't you? Don't do it to another person, to another thing. If you must give your power away, then you give it all to God. That's fine. Check mark. Okay, no problem. But in fact, that's an excellent way to go. But you do not need to give it to the world. So, does everybody know how to release grievances? How do you go about doing that? And everyone, I'm sure, if we quizzed everybody, would have slightly different words to hear from each person. We're all individuals, but it basically boils down to there's an energy inside you that you got to get out. It's an energy thing. And you feel normally somebody in your world or the bigger world has mistreated you or not done what you wanted them to do. So the key here is to stop wanting them to do that thing. Okay? That's the meaning you're giving to the world. I know what you're supposed to do for me. You didn't do it. I don't like you anymore. Unfriend you. I don't like you. Whatever. Or you may not feel you don't like him. You just say, I just don't feel good about that interaction. That didn't go over. That didn't work. And the Course's central teaching is forgiveness. You have to forgive them. This is not optional. You have to, and the forgiveness is 100% or it's nothing. Does the Course really say that? It doesn't use those precise words, but it does. It says forgiveness must be complete. If I forgive all of you for what you've done to me, and there have been some bad ones, except you, my point, if I hold one grievance in my mind, I don't have peace. If I don't have peace, I'm not where I need to be. God lives at peace, you might say. If you don't have peace in your mind, God is blocked. You can't get in there because he brings peace. And so forgiveness has to be 100%. You can't say, I'm really a good forgiver. I have forgiven 95% of the people who treated me wrong. But there's another 5%. No way. That's not forgiveness. Not the way that, yeah, of course you've forgiven the 95. I'm not necessarily denying that, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you're not at peace, you're not at peace. You see? And it only takes one unforgiveness to be not at peace. And the Course says that behind every upset that you feel, there is an unforgiving thought. Okay, and you say, all right, I've got an unforgiving thought. Do I want to deal with it? Yes, but how do I do that? Well, you must change your perception of the situation. That's the first thing. You have misperceived the situation. Most of us don't want to admit that. We feel that the other person has misperceived and without any justification. And so I don't want to see him in a better light. Well, great, you're not going to. But you must ask the Holy Spirit, help me see this situation differently. Help me see that person differently. And the Course says the Holy Spirit is there to help in that. And there's nothing that you can't see differently. Well, some things are so important, though. How can I possibly change my view of this horrible thing that happened over here? They didn't contribute to my cause. They shouted at me, an ugly remark, whatever. It doesn't matter. Some things upset. There's no rhyme or reason to what upsets you. We can go through this, that, and the other and be fine. But then something slips in. It's like you've got a shield, but there's a few holes in it. If it hits the shield, it bounces off. No problem. No problem. Then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I'm not at peace. Why are you not at peace? Because that person didn't act the way you wanted them to act. That you generally have or let's put it this way. Rarely is it that you can talk to another person with a completely open slate of say and do whatever you wish. I do not care. It does not matter. Rather, you have a limited open slate. Anything in here but not past these lines here, don't go past there. In other words, you're in the company of someone and they are clearly a racist and they're just running down anybody that's not the same tone of white skin that they are. And they have a tone meter here and they just check it out. Not just black and brown and yellow. It's just if you're a little off the white there, oh, you're 0.2 instead of 0.5. I'm 0.5. You're supposed to be 0.5. How does that affect you? Well, I'm just automatically assuming that you're not racist. Okay. I don't have to assume that. It doesn't really matter. But let's just, nevertheless, for the sake of the conversation, I'm assuming you're not a racist, so you'll be challenged to some degree or other if you're around people that are. Well, okay, what are your possible reactions? Just send them to the devil right then. Just in your mind, the devil here. They're seeking for you. Well, that's not going to work. That's not going to bring your peace back. You're just judging them more. You're wanting to punish them, actually. Do you need to change them? Now, there's where the crux comes in. Well, I should change them. They're obviously wrong, way wrong. And let's say that they are. They're embracing untruths. But the Course says don't ever tell another person he's wrong. Not because he's right all the time, but he's right at a deeper level. In other words, if a person's saying some racist thing, I'll just take race as an example. Saying something against your neighborhood, your town, your football team, it doesn't matter what it is. Then you feel attacked and not appreciated because you identify with these things. And usually there's a feeling, well, that I need to change that person. I need to stop that person from moving his mouth while I'm around him because I don't like what comes out of it. Well, that's the perception that, or part of the perception that needs to be changed. You do not need to change him. It is not, the Course says, it is not up to you to change your brother. It's up to you to change yourself. You're here for the healing of your mind. I'm not here waiting around for the healing of y'all's mind. My mind's healed. What's wrong with you people? You haven't. Come on, let's get on it. That's not it. All our minds are connected. All our minds need to be healed. They have their individual ways of going off the track, but that doesn't matter. But it never involves changing the other person. And particularly when you get bothered, some people will say, I definitely wanted to change him. I've learned from experience it doesn't work, so I just walk away. But would I want to change him? If I could, you bet. Well, you still want to change him. You just use some common sense and got out of the situation before it got too troublesome. But the point is, you don't need to change him. It is not your purpose or place to change him. Now, that's what I hear the Course saying to me, is that I do not need, and I don't need to change the other person. I accept that totally until he does something wrong, then I'm supposed to change him. Well, no, that's not just sort of contradicting myself there, didn't it? I don't need to change him ever. Well, he might go to hell. That's not your problem. There is no hell anyhow, except of his own making. So we have all learned, I'm pretty sure, that you can't change another person anyway, even if you want to. Talk to them all day long. You just have an argument. And, well, why doesn't God get in on this? Come in on my side and let them know how off base they are. Well, he never does he? Never. The Holy Spirit could just materialize an angel of light right there in front of him, point of hand, you're wrong, you're right. It never does that. We are allowed to go in the direction right or wrong, whatever that means to you, as often or as long as we wish. And if you're talking to someone on the phone and you think that, well, they're becoming negative here, I better change that. Well, if you could steer the conversation in another way, it's probably useful. But you're not going to change. That's not changing them. That's just getting their mind off of it for a minute. But if you actually want to dedicate yourself to changing another person, you need help. Not for changing them, but to change your perception. So again, we need to remember, if you want to release, you want to forgive, there's a perception, your perception, not theirs. You're not concerned about their perception. It's your perception that's going to bring you peace or not. It's your perception that needs to be changed. And so let us just begin with saying that no one is ever wrong. Well, they say some untrue things, no doubt, but they're still not wrong. They are perfect. There's a real problem in seeing people. You tend to want to see them as the body and the personality that goes along with it. They're not. They're a soul that is very confused probably, and it probably thinks it's a body and a personality, but it's not. It can't be. You can't. And it's not our job to beat them over the head until they realize they're not. It's just not our job. And it's not God's job either. Fortunately, we'd all have already been beaten down to a crumb. No. Well, forgiveness of others is so important like that. And if you're having trouble to release something, of course, the first thing to do. We all know the first thing to do. No, absolutely. It's so simple. So why the heck don't we always remember it? because we want to take care of ourselves. I don't need God's help. I'm big enough. I can handle this. No, no, and no. Ask for help. It's so simple. You see, the thing we don't like to admit is that our minds are sick. We all have a sick mind. That doesn't mean you're sick. You are perfect. You know, I like to remember always that I am a soul or spirit, and the soul and spirit that I have is perfect. It's created by God. It cannot be changed. And then I've got this thing called a mind that can think either good or bad. It can think any way it wants. It can be very much out of control. Often is. That's where I need the help. Is with the healing of the mind. The soul doesn't need any help. Spirit doesn't. The essential you doesn't need any help at all. But we have distanced ourselves from that, sort of blocked it off. And so we look at the world and let it affect us. First you have to make the world for yourself by giving it this interpretation and that interpretation. Let's suppose that we're at our election. Was it November 2nd or something like that? Is that when the election? 22nd? When is the election? Our national election is.
I think it's the first Tuesday in November.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, at least it's in November. We know that. If you have a preference, you're off your track of peace. Period. Having a preference means I'm trying to give reality to the world. But that's really true. And don't feel alone and attacked. We all are that way. We want the world to be true. Why? So I can judge it and show you how smart I am, probably. I judge it right and you judge it wrong, of course. In those rare circumstances where you judge it right and I judge it wrong, I don't want to talk to you. I want to keep that to myself. I'm just saying, now that's no different from the football game. If you have a preference as to which wins, and you say, well, that's not a very big thing. I'm not talking about sizes now. I'm just saying, yeah, some people make the world a lot more real to themselves than others. I understand that. But it doesn't make any difference to whatever extent you're doing it, you're doing it. I'm saying the world doesn't have anything, and when you give her a preference, you're saying it does, and it's that way, and I want to see it happen that way. It doesn't make you bad if you believe that. It just means you're a human being right now, or seem to be, at any rate. That's what humans do. They come here, or we come here, but we're not humans. Let me just get that clear. I'm a soul. I'm not a human being. Oh, God damn. Human being. Why would I want to be that? Flip on the television, look at the news, and ask yourselves, there you guys are. You want to be one of them. Well, it's okay to want to be one of them. The nice thing is there really is no judgment in the universe except when you insist on it. You see? What you have to ask yourself, do I really want to withdraw from the world? And say, I know I've been taught to not withdraw. A withdrawal has a negative connotation to it. I think of going to a hillside, digging out a cave and sitting inside the cave and not having any TV or nothing, or not knowing anything about. Well, that's one process, and then I can meditate all day. And then we have that wonderful joke that somebody has told us, and you all know the one I'm talking about. You can start laughing right now about the guy who meditated so much he became totally enlightened, and he stayed enlightened until he came out of his cave and met you, and you said that stupid thing. And his enlightenment went poof. He went back into his cave, of course. So I'm not talking about that withdrawal. I'm talking about walking down the streets of New Orleans or Knoxville, Tennessee, and not attaching reality to it. I'm not at the physical level. We don't have to try to run through a wall. If I was actually pure spirit, I could just zoom right through it. If I didn't have a physical body. But physical bodies, you can't put two physical objects in the same place at the same time. We learned that a long time ago. Just the way matter is. And so, and that's understood scientifically. But it's understood why that is true. Oh, but at any rate, you don't want to give if you don't want to give reality to the world, then stop doing so by deciding it ought to be this way or it ought not to be that way, and so check your preferences. I will have to work. I don't have to work when I'm watching a UT football game about not having preference. That's just easy as pie for me. Don't care. On November 22nd, I'll have to work a little bit because there's more of a pull. That's just me. It may or may not be that way for you. Doesn't make any difference. But whatever pulls on you, whether it be the football game, the election, or whether your daughter stays married to this wonderful man she's married or gets a divorce or not, whatever family issue you might have the pull, whatever it is, you don't need to have a preference. I'm saying that if you have a preference, well, we want the world to be a good place, don't we? No, it's not real. Well, do you want it to be a bad place? Well, certainly don't want it to be a bad place. Well, you don't want it to be a good place either. The good and bad, that's the apple in the Garden of Eden. If you still want to chew on it, you can. You see, but you don't have to. Well, I like chewing on it. Fine. I'm not going to judge you for doing it, hopefully, at any rate. That's your choice. But I don't have to be embroiled in that. And you say, well, it's so much of a defeatist attitude to say, I'm not going to fool with the world. You need to get in there and change the world. Make it a really better place. Well, I think that's fine if you want to do that. But don't make it real. I mean, you got to do something. Might as well mow your yard than not mow it because the grass just keeps growing, you know. And pretty soon it's too tall to even mow. You can't even mow the stuff. It's so tall. And who wants to be out there swinging one of those, I forget what you call them, but they scythe. Yeah, there's something else too. Sickle. Anyway, I've done that when I was younger, but I don't do that anymore. I'd rather have that mower. It just hums and cuts the grass down until the grass gets this high and it doesn't want to cut it down anymore. But I don't have to give meaning to that. If my mower quits, wouldn't I rather it not quit? I'm sure that is true, but I don't have to hold on to it. I don't have to make a big deal at it. Ideally, I wouldn't care at all. Oh, it's quit. Oh, okay. I think I'll go get a no. Or go get that one fixed. That really is the simpler way to be than say, oh, then I'm going to fuming about your mower quitting. Go get a gun and shoot your mower. So it's up to you, but you need help because the world is so alluring. I guess it's that right. It seems to. It wants to pull you. It doesn't really have a want or not want, but it's as if it wants to pull you in. Yeah.
So it's pulling you away from God.
Yes, and the real world.
So you
and peace.
A God of things.
That's right.
Whatever
it is. In other words, if my mower quits, I'm still a soul. I'm still just as perfect after it's quit than before it's quit. That didn't affect my soul in any way. And nor does it limit the depth of my experience of reality when I finally put aside all this other stuff and encounter reality totally. In other words, there's no stain. The world cannot leave a stain on your mind if you've forgiven it. See, if you're holding on to agreements, that's kind of like a stain on your mind. Well, that's not a good word because stains are hard to get off. That's just some dirt on your mind. It can easily be washed off. It does not stain the mind and certainly not the soul, but you must be willing. So just say, I want to choose peace instead of this. It's your choice. And what the ego will say is, that person didn't treat you right. That's clear. You're smart enough to know that, aren't you? Oh, yeah. I picked her up on that right away. That's good. Now, since we've caught them, we don't want to let them go. We need to bring some harm their way, and just in terms of a few well-chosen words, perhaps, or something. You got to do something. That's where the ego is going to do, and this is all. It's building your perception, making it worse for you moment by moment. So you say, "Well, I'm through this. I'm going to stop. I'm not going to hear the ego anymore on this, but I still feel bad. I'm still not at peace." Always know whether you're at peace. I hope there's no one in here that can't tell the difference between peace and not at peace, because I have no idea of how to. I'm not sure the course would have an idea of how to help you. Is there anybody? Well, you would not want to tell me anyway. My wish for you is that you can tell when you're. Let's put it this way: does anybody think there might be some people out in the world who don't know whether they're at peace or not at a given time? Maybe there's no one in here.
If you do, how do you know you're at peace when you recognize somebody else is not at peace?
Well, I can't feel their feelings, but I can feel them.
But you're thinking that there's not peace out there when there's not out there to begin with in the first place.
Yeah. You have to change your perception about that. Yeah. But I think there probably are some people that don't know. Let's suppose if you make someone drunk enough, he doesn't know. He doesn't even know his name. Nevertheless, where he's at peace. Well, I feel kind of sick, so maybe that's not at peace. We could probably, I'm sure there are at least some extreme states of mind we could get into where we don't know what is peace. We're just fuming and raving. We're having an anxiety attack. Someone has an anxiety attack. Fear is so large they can't help but they're just trembling no matter. Well, I don't have to ask them whether they're at peace. They're obviously not at peace. But it'd be pointless to point that out to them. They know that too, but they don't know how to get out of it. So in extreme situations like that, help from other people can be useful. Somebody that's more knowledgeable about that. But you first just have to ask for help in your mind. The Holy Spirit then can bring the person to you who comes and puts a bag over your head. And doesn't that sometimes make you breathe a lot? Or
Breathe in and out of a bag.
Not over your head.
Not over your head.
Okay. That's when you want to kill them, right? Just breathe. I knew it had to do with the bag. Okay. Breathe in. Okay. Thank you kindly. Breathe. We wouldn't want to be transmitting over the airways here to go put bags over people's heads. But if you happen to need that, and for some reason I can't think of, or at least breathe it in and out, the Holy Spirit will help bring someone to you that has a bag, and that can suggest that. But the first thing to do is just ask for help. Now let's just pause for a minute so you will understand why you have to do that. Because the ego is going to say, look, if there were a helper out there that could hear you, who is kind and loving, wouldn't you think he would know you need the bag and bring it? He wouldn't even bother to ask you. He'd say, here, you just have somebody materialize there and give you the bag. Yeah. Or if an avalanche was about to come down, he'd just simply pick you up and put you out of the way, or he'd just stop the avalanche. That's the sort of stuff that doesn't happen. We have to ask, and here's the reason for that. Coming here, the process of coming here, or in that process, we told God, stay away. Leave me alone. I want to do it my way. And the unusual thing about God is that he actually pays attention to what we want and said, okay. Now, with little children, if they ask you, Dad, Mom, leave me alone. I'm going to go play in the street now. We'll say, yeah, sure, I'm going to leave you alone. No, you're not playing in the street. We don't give them the freedom to hurt themselves. God does give you the freedom to hurt the parts of yourself that are not real. He does not give you the power to hurt your soul or spirit. You don't have that. You're not ever going to have it. End of story. but he does do that here. And he just really respects your free choice to a degree that seems almost extreme to me. Well, he's extreme on that. You don't want it, he doesn't give it to you. You have to ask to give him permission to help, because he has this weird characteristic of really paying attention to your wishes. If you ask me, I'd say, if God were to ask me, not that I expect that, but Bob, do you think I should give them permission? Most of the time, no. Yank it whenever needed. That's too extreme. No. Wars, no. Well, that doesn't happen here. It doesn't happen. You know, we still have wars, sure. Are we still self-serving or corrupt in governments that take money, take the tax money and put it in their own pockets instead of sending it to making a new school here, or that building in Lebanon that exploded? Evidently explosives were stored there, and people have been trying to get the government to deal with that for several years, and it just hadn't occurred. You put enough explosives in a building, well, at some time or another, the right conditions are going to occur, and it's going to go poof. You know, well, God allows that. Why didn't He just move the explosives out Himself with His divine hand, just into a safe place? Well, He doesn't do that. He lets us have this thing. And so what we had written up here a little bit earlier was tolerance for pain may be high, but it's not unlimited. He allows pain to occur when you've told Him you want to do it your way, and that means pain's going to occur. He actually allows it. I still have a little trouble with that.
Only in illusions, though.
Yes, yeah, no, indeed, I understand that. I still have a little trouble. It doesn't change the fact. It's just not the simplest solution. To my mind, the simplest solution would be to have a bar. If you go above that bar, I'm yanking it. Two unkind words on the third bar, I'm yanking it.
3 strikes and you're out.
3 strikes and you're out, right? You know, unfortunately, I have no say in it, because I'm sure that wouldn't work. That would not be good. But I'm just reminding you that there is no 3 strikes, and until you declare it for yourself. Oh, that was the 3rd strike. I'm tired of this. I'm going to quit. It's too painful. There must be a better way. And the Holy Spirit always answers. This is a fact. It's not just words. It just occurs. And we call it miracles generally, you see. But you have to act. That is your part. No big deal. It has amazed me. I know I said this before, or probably said this, but when I first got married, Mary Lynn used to do so many bad things. It's just incredible how many bad things that she would do to me personally.
We won't tell her that you told that. That here.
And well, yeah, she might make up my bed, for example. Maybe I didn't want it made up. She might hang my clothes up. Maybe I don't want them hung up. I just tend to flip it. And furthermore, she folds it before she puts it up. That's worse. You know why that's worse? Because I don't know how to fold anything. And so if I take it off of there, I can't get it back up there folded because I don't know how to fold it. And so that means really I best not wear it at all. She might as well throw it away.
You don't know how to fold?
You kind of do it like that, don't you?
You gotta know when to hold it and when to fold it.
When to hold it, when to... Well, I can do that, but it's not nearly as good. She folds it much better. And I don't want to fold it anyhow. So I you know, and well, I had a simple solution. I would say, Holy Spirit, help me see Mary Lynn as you do. If you can't do that, I want you to see her as I do. But that never worked. All I have to do is just help me see her as you do. And always before, oh, she's trying to be helpful. Oh, it's a good thing. Oh, change perception. I thought it was a bad thing. I didn't get too bent out of shape over that. But no matter, I could have. It's just an example, of course. But the nice thing about living with somebody is you gradually give up judging them because of all these hundreds of things that they do that are against you. You begin to realize that actually they're just fine. That's just what she does, whatever. It's okay. You let go of it. But that's a kind of trivial sounding thing. It would be worse if she or anybody else was calling me a bunch of dirty names all the time. That would be more challenging. Or trying to, I don't know, break into the house, whatever. You can get it at any level that you want to have it. But by not making the world real, what you are really doing here is you're saying it's got one purpose, and that's the healing of my mind. And if I remember that, what did we say last week about that? If you remember that that's the only purpose of the world, then you escape the world's laws of violence and death, and nobody's breaking into your house. Or if they are, they come in and they say, oh, I'm sorry, wrong house. I thought this was my house. Whatever, no problem. The Course says that. You do not have to be under the world's laws of violence and death. And by the way, it is saying that's the kind of laws the world does have. I don't think we need to be convinced of that one. And the world is so dark. I don't mean bad. I mean they just can't see truth. That's all. They accept the world's laws of violence and death as normal and natural. Oh, we have a war. Well, yeah, we have wars. You know how insane wars are? So asking is the first thing, and I know that you will remember that as you go through the week. Thank you.
Thank you.